Here I go, introducing myself. Hello! My name's Phil, and I am a tea connoisseur, a physicist, and a male. I have deep and complex feelings about the environment, which I'd like to share with you today, but I can't, because I'm a physicist and a male. That's pretty much the worst possible combo that you can have for being in touch with your feelings. So I just have to walk around being objectively dispassionate all the time. Don't get me wrong, that's really good for science, isn't it, Steve? You know, you don't want to get too emotionally involved with your theories. You have a theory and you go looking for evidence, and if the evidence doesn't back it up, well, you just have to abandon it, you know. You can't sook. You can't have a tantrum when someone comes up to you and says, I have evidence that supports my theory, not yours. Objectively dispassionate. Yes, you are right. But a physicist's world is data. You see, it's all about how good your data is. It doesn't matter what you look like, how good looking you are, how cool you are, how many tattoos or piercings, any of that stuff doesn't matter. All that matters is good data. That rules. And that's why I carry my thermometer. So at any stage, I can make a measurement and get good data. Ooh, it's getting hot in here. 20 hot in my pocket. At least. And yes, there was a thermometer in my pocket, and yes, I'm pleased to observe you. So, but my thermometer has limitations. That's what scientists understand. There are limitations to data. There are only lines every 2 degrees. So although it says somewhere between 28 and 30, I'm going to say it's 29 plus or minus 1, right? So when I do a graph of my world, right, you all graph your world, don't you? What the temperature does, all the time. It's great fun graphing things. You can't just put a dot, though, at 29, right? You have to draw a little line that goes between 28 and 30. It's called an error bar. And this is one of the great powers of science, is that they know when their data's flaky, and they know that they need to improve it, right? And that's how you can tell when a physicist really feels strongly about something. Their error bars get really small. So yeah, I love data and I love plotting things, like tea, for example. I'm a tea nerd, and so I plot my tea. You'd think, last week, this week, today, tomorrow, my tea tastes exactly the same, but it doesn't. Have you ever noticed that? That you have a cup of tea, and one day it'll taste quite good, and the next day it'll be a bit weird, and it makes you wonder whether Fiona's been there with the kettle again. I'm pretty sure I've changed the locks and locked her out. Anyhow, so I decided to do a little chart of my tea, So what could the factors be? Something that I'm eating it with, maybe if it's savoury or sweet. How hot it is, obviously, since I've got my trusty thermometer. And, because sometimes you make your tea with your kettle and it's kind of gone off the boil. And sometimes you do it when it's boiling hot and, hot or not quite so hot. And of course, I'm a factor in this, so maybe my mood has something to do with it. So I graphed that as well. That's like objectively dispassionate, or that's pretty much it. So what I found, though, is that the temperature is important, and this is one of the things that gets my error bars shrinking. That in this. Thank you. In this world of coffee, people have forgotten how to make good tea, except in Smith's, because it's cracking tea here, I've got to say. But I got this horrible cup of tea at my local cafe the other day, and I went down there and I said, I decided to, broach the whole topic of the water coming out of the coffee machine. I don't think it's hot enough. So I went up to the barista, and I wasn't intimidated by his beard. I could see him looking at my arms with no tattoos. And I didn't flinch. I looked him right in the eye, brow piercing. And I said, "I'm protected by data." And he looked at me and said, "Dude, a thermometer, that's so retro. What do you use that for?" I said, it measures the temperature. He goes, "You don't actually use that thing, do you?" I go, yeah. He says, but that's part of that scientist global warming conspiracy, thermometers. So, they measure the temperature and they think that means that the globe's warming. So, you can imagine by then I was feeling pretty objectively dispassionate. And I said to him, so how do you find out the temperature of something? He said, dude, I Google it. Right. So you can Google the temperature in your coffee machine. Yeah, awesome idea, dude. Let's do it. Whips out his phone, plugs it into Siri, and Siri pops up. "I'm sorry, Jayden, I can't find anything for temperature of hot water in Braddon. But I can tell you, temperature of hot water in San Francisco is 100 degrees Celsius." And he goes, "Yeah, perfectly hot enough for your tea." But what got me most about that was that Siri didn't even give error bars. She was completely certain that she was right. And that is extremism. That's dangerous. Siri is a dangerous extremist. Because as soon as you're certain of your data, then, there's no room for any discussion and it becomes an absolute belief and crazy things happen. Take everyone's favourite extremist, Donald Trump. Never any error bars on what he does. He's completely certain of everything that he says until the next day when the tweet contradicts the one from the day before. But, I'm a scientist, so I decided I had to actually graph Donald Trump's behaviour, right, to find the pattern. There's a pattern, right? No, there's no pattern. Not only is his behaviour up and down, it doesn't even go forwards. In time, because 1 minute he's here, next he's in 1800 pre-anthropogenic climate change, right? And then he's in the 60s thinking it's the Cold War again. And then he's in 80,000 BC with his Neanderthal attitudes to women. But you see, I'm apparently getting a bit emotional about this. This is the power of science. You know how good your data is, and you know what still needs to be improved. And there's discussion about where there are uncertainties. And so I think I'm going to try something here as a physicist male. I'm going to share some emotions between, just us, friends, in this safe space. When it comes to human-induced climate change, the error bars are fucking tiny! Thank you and good night.